Welcome to the Bulletin Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Willie Brandt School Bulletin Podcast. We are with our co-host today, and my name is Maria Jose.
And I am Ari, and in today's special episode, we have one of our alumni from the Willie Brandt School Master of Public Policy, Dr. Atif.
Yes, Dr. Atif. Dr. Atif is a specialist in strategic communication. He has over 20 years of leadership experience with nearly 10 years in international settings. He is the current section chief of public advocacy and communication at the United Nations Environment Program's headquarters in Nairobi, Kenya. He has expertise in strategy development and organizational building and communication research, and he has also worked with some of the most renowned international aid and humanitarian organizations, including the UK's Department for International Development, German Society for International Cooperation, the International Labour Organization, the United Nations Development Programme, Johns Hopkins University, and the United Nations Children's Fund. He has earned his Master's of Public Policy degree from the Willy Brandt School at Erfurt University and a doctorate degree in International Development Studies from Ruhr University Bochum. And finally, his doctoral research focuses on how ideation influences policy making. So, welcome, Dr. Atif. We're happy to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and it's really nice meeting you, Maria and Ari.
How are you today, Doctor?
Very good, very good. It's a very good morning today, and the weather is excellent. I'm in Nairobi, and the weather in Nairobi is uncomparable to any other place in this world. It's always, every time, absolutely splendid.
Nice. It's glad to know that. Well, I'm so very excited to read about your background, and we also already have one of our session with Dr. Atif during our previous courses, and it's even 2 hours is not enough. We still can have a lot of knowledge and also experience that we can learn from him. Well, before going through the first questions, Doctor, may I know in which batch or year that you joined the Willy Brandt School?
Oh, I'm a dinosaur, so I was part of the second batch. I started in 2004, so the first batch had already started. So, and then I completed in 2006. So I hate to say it's been 20 years now.
Wow. And yeah, it's actually connecting to our first questions. We would also like to know the reason why you decide Willy Brandt School of Public Policy as one of your choice in pursuing your education in master degree. Does it relating to your previous experience, or it's more aligned to your future career plans? If you can, yeah, explain about that.
Sure, absolutely. Would love to. So, for me, uh, the biggest motivation at the time was, of course, to have an international degree, which could help me advance my career and broaden my perspective, as is the case with most students when they are thinking of deciding to pursue an international degree. But more importantly, I wanted to do a degree which was not necessarily confined to one mainstream school of thought, and was bringing in a range of theoretical perspective from both positive science and normative science. And when I was reading the course plan for the Master of Public Policy, I could see that the degree in public policy from Willy Brandt is allowing that. It's not confined to one particular theoretical perspective. So that was one of the decisions, one of the factors that helped me make that decision. And also, at the time when I opted for a degree in public policy, uh, I was trying to build my career in the field of strategic communication and advocacy. And uh, at the heart of advocacy is how you influence policy making, right? So, and once the policy is there, how do you then influence its enforcement? And for me, the reason, and for that matter, the decision was fairly straightforward and obvious that if my career choice is that I want to influence policy outcomes, then I must first understand what policy making is. And uh, and indeed, this is the foremost skill that I've acquired from this degree program: the understanding of public policy, um, and the complexity that this field is surrounded with. So the degree has helped me a great deal in that respect. And after completing my degree in public policy, I went on, completed my PhD, also linking communication to policy outcomes, and now I had a public advocacy and communication section in UNEP. So it has been from my international degree, first international degree, to my PhD and my career, it has all been reinforcing each other and complementary in that sense.
Thank you so much for your answer. You also already addressed about how you can learn about the policy making during the master program, that it's still affecting in your career, like in your professional career. Okay, take note of that. Okay, next maybe Maho, you.
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for talking about the role of communications in public policy. I think that's something that goes all along the way in all the fields we kind of try to work with. And our next question is more focused on your current role. So, as we already mentioned, you're currently working in the public advocacy and communication section in the UNEP, United Nations Environment Program. Could you briefly explain what are your responsibilities in this position? How does a normal or day for you look like? And how do you think you apply the theoretical concepts, maybe about policymaking, that you learned in your MPP in this real world position?
Uh, Broadly speaking, my main responsibility, is to advocate for environmental causes, engage the public at large, including young people and other segments of society, and that includes activists, scientists, artists, academicians, among others, and to seek to influence policy making and practice. And if I could put it in a framework, the policy that I'm trying to influence the outcomes is for the three environmental crises that the world is facing, and it's the crisis of climate change, it's the crisis of pollution and waste, and it's the crisis of loss of biodiversity and nature. Uh, but more specifically, what it involves is that I have to provide oversight, leadership, and management to all the global campaigns on environment that UNEP is responsible of. I'm also responsible of all the international days and events that are celebrated or observed through the UNEP platform, such as World Environment Day, which is celebrated on June 5. And I'm also responsible for the corporate communication initiative that the organization has, such as Champion of the Earth, which is a flagship initiative that we have, and the most prominent award in the field of environment. And I'm also responsible for managing cross-cutting communication streams, such as our engagement with youth, partnership development, as well as our Goodwill Ambassador program. So the usual day revolves around providing inputs, oversight, and also technical leadership to do all these efforts. So, uh, since I'm head of the section, in my section, then all these campaigns and initiatives, they have their coordinators and then they have their own teams. So I work very closely with coordinators and other colleagues in the division, and this is how we implement the program. And as far as your question is concerned, how did the degree in public policy has helped? Uh, as I as I mentioned in my previous question, the degree in public policy uh, has been helping me navigate this space from the perspective of public advocacy, multilateral environmentalism, and environmental governance. Uh, so my work entirely revolves around influencing decision making and the choices that we as individuals make. And this this is one of the core skills that I acquired from the public policy program that I attended at the Willy Brandt School, is that how do we understand the political economy that surrounds any policy decision making, and how we can influence that political economy. And once we understand that political economy, that the dynamics of power within that political economy, we are at far better place to influence the positive outcomes. And this understanding has come from my degree at the Effort University, and to know what policy making is, how it is conceived, designed, implemented, questioned, challenged, reformulated. Uh, it has been part and parcel of my career throughout, uh, and it's reflected in my work almost every day.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Dr. Atif. And I think communications is a role that makes you have to be aware of everything that's going in the organization. And I'm glad the skills that you've learned in our masters have managed to be more approachable to this complexity that is policy making at the end of the day. So great to hear that. So Ari, please.
Yes, and when you're mentioning about the political economy side, it somehow also resembles me and how I also kind of have an awakening moment on trying to understand how this world works, because it's turns out it's getting more complex, and we also have to very careful in addressing public policy, because it's not just about one party and also involving a lot of stakeholders. Well, talking about a career in public policy, as you say, that it often involves networking and building relationship with the key players in the field. And we would like to know, maybe there's like kind of a strategies that you can share to us, and that we can also expand in our professional network, and how can these connections contribute to your career advancement according to your experience?
Sure, and this is a very important question, uh, and there isn't a cookie cutter approach to this, right? It depends on a lot of factors. It depends on whether you already have some experience when you started your degree program, or whether you're absolutely fresh, you're coming from school directly into the master program. It also depends which sector you belong to. Do you belong to banking sector or finance sector or development sector, or your interest lies in these sectors if you do not have an experience? It also depends on whether you want to work at the national level or regional level or global level, whether you want to work independently, you want to set up your own initiative, or you want to work in a corporate environment. Uh, so all these factors, they uh, they have uh, they have an influence on, or at least they they are important when you are thinking of how to cultivate and establish your network, your relationships, your professional relationships. But regardless, there are a few strategies that students can employ to expand their professional network, their professional relationships. The first and foremost, which I was very particular about, was to, and that is if you already have some experience, because if you have some experience, you would have already some form of professional network that you have left behind when you started your master degree program. So the first thing that we need to do is to stay in touch with that professional network. It's hard because there's a gap now. You're not there at that setting. You are now in Alfred, in the university. So how do you stay in touch with that professional network? It is as basic as sending them email message, just asking how they are doing, your professional network, if it is your supervisor, if it is your co-worker, or congratulating them if they had any success, and just passing them this message that I read it, or I heard it that you did this, and I'm so very grateful and for your achievement, and I congratulate you. And also maybe from time to time, just writing them that if they need any assistance or help, you are there to help them out in a volunteer capacity. So, and that matters, because then you would stay within their radar. Your name would not be forgotten. So the first thing is to stay connected with your existing network. Do not let it go. And especially if you want to pursue your field in the same career in which you already have some years of experience. Then the second strategy would be to expand your network, make more relationship, broaden it. Um and uh, Willy Brandt School in this regards, provides several opportunities. Uh, in my experience, when I was doing the master degree, many professors or lecturers who were coming, they were coming uh, from from professional field. They weren't career academician, rather they were ex-UN staff member, or they were working with the corporate sector, or they were working uh, in a in a think tank. So, and what is important, and this is what I did, was uh, to develop relationships with them and try to tap into to their network, and through that I tried expanding my network. And this means that uh, your final thesis may not be only based on the factor that this subject matter interests you, but it may also be based on that factor that if you do your final thesis with someone who can help you broaden your network, establish more relationship, or help you with your career, then you might be doing your final thesis with that person. uh, you may want to be helping with that professor's project in a volunteer capacity, offering that support. So all these small strategies help you expand your network. And the third thing that I did was capitalizing on the opportunities that we get to attend international conferences and events. And my suggestion is that we opt for an international conference or event. We are very strategic and selective about that. So we only attend those conferences where we see the opportunity whereby we can expand our network. So in my case, when I was attending these conferences and events, I was making sure that these were those where my existing professional network was participating. And that was for me an opportunity to reconnect with them, and rebuild the relationship. So that was also helpful. And another thing that we did at the time when we were completing our master degree was trying to be actively engaged socially. Um, I remember that uh, there was flooding in Pakistan when I was doing my master degree program, and I was a student at the Oxford University, and a bunch of students, I together with another Pakistani student and some other colleague students, we decided that let's raise funds for Pakistan for the flood victims. And we did that project, and we raised funds, and that helped us, connect uh, with with other colleagues, with other people who were from belonging to the same field. We work very closely with the UNICEF office in Erfurt, and that helped me develop relationship with colleagues who were at the UNICEF, because we raised funds for UNICEF for the flood victims in Pakistan. And the last thing I would say is the internship. And many a times, what happens is that if you have some experience, then internship sounds a bit, uh, uh, I wouldn't say useless, but not as uh, contributing to your education or your professional development. Because if you already have 3 or 4 years of experience or 5 years of experience, then going back and doing an internship doesn't make much sense, because you feel that you're already at a mid-career level, or you're at a doorstep of a mid-career level. So what you can do is, uh, and this is something that is quite possible, is reach out to organization that you aspire for, and ask them if you can contribute to any of their projects in a volunteer capacity. And that contribution is then you know is seen, or uh, is taken as internship for your degree program. So what I did was that I had a few years of experience when I started Master of Public Policy, and I didn't want to do basic internship. So I started reaching out to different organizations, asking them that these are my expertise, these are my skills and capacities, and I'm I'm more than happy to bring these skills to you and help your organization in any project that you think. And I got a very good offer from Office of the High Representative in Bosnia and Herzegovina. They asked me to lead a project to assess capacity of local organization there and prepare a strategy how the capacity of local organization can be improved so they can better achieve developmental outcomes. And I did that research over a period of, I believe, 4 or 5 months. And I submitted the report, and I did that in volunteer capacity. And that entire uh, engagement was then uh, I reported it as my internship to the Master of Public Policy program. And it is still part of my resume. It's still part of my CV because it was an independent project that I managed. It wasn't just an internship. So what I'm asking is that when you think of doing an internship, think it strategically as to how that internship could be a selling factor on your CV as well. And especially so if you already have some experience, you don't want to do some entry level internship. So I believe these are a few strategies that help me a lot, and they can be. I hope that they can be helpful uh, for you guys to build your network and relationships.
Thank you very much, Dr. Atif. I think it's a pretty clear and useful guideline you provided us, especially to many of us that are struggling with maybe finding an internship right now, a thesis topic. I think it's been a really timely response, very clear, really step guided. And the next question is a bit more also focused on the fact that most of us are coming from an international background, studying in Germany. How do you navigate cultural differences and diverse perspectives while formulating or promoting or advocating for public policies, for example? Maybe some of the skills you acquired in the master's will help you in this regard. And how has your cultural competence evolved over time to address these challenges?
Sure. And this is another very important question. And this is something that is asked and investigated when you're applying for organization such as United Nations. This is something uh, that they look for very closely. So, what is very important, which is fundamental, is that in today's day and age, one cannot afford to be ignorant, and and especially if you are aspiring to build your career in a multicultural setting. Uh, I work for United Nations Environment Program, and we are the lead organization in terms of bringing environmental policies to the fore. And these are called multilateral environmental agreements, such as the Paris Agreement or the Convention on Biological Diversity. And these agreements, these multilateral environmental agreements, are outcomes of very complex, multi-layered, and often tedious um, uh, processes and discussions. And these agreements may not be perfect, but what is important is that they are an outcome where all member states, all countries have come together and found a common ground. And only then the implementation of these agreements are made possible because different perspectives, different opinions are listened to, are respected, uh, and they are included into how the final outcomes look like. And these multilateral agreements are important because uh, they are they are the instrument that are guiding global, regional, and national action on environmental issues. Um, and uh, we could not have many of environmental issues addressed uh, if these agreements were not already put in place. So, at a very broad level, respecting, being inclusive, and making sure that these diverse opinions are listened to and included in a policy or environmental outcome uh, is is extremely important. But from from the personal point of view, and for me personally, uh, I believe that cultural competence goes hand in hand with how much exposure you have and your own belief system. I remember that I truly started cherishing diversity and respecting differences when I started getting exposure to multicultural environments. And the Willy Brandt School is among those drivers that help you see the value in diversity, because you would only see diversity and range of opinion when you start interacting in a multicultural setting. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what diversity is and how beautiful and cherishable it is. And as far as communication is concerned, communication, as you know, is not just about spoken words. It's also about how one conducts him or herself in a multicultural environment, and how he or she responds in a situation where there are diverse opinion, how he or she is inclusive, how she, he or she is respectful and appreciates these differences. So it's not just the formal education that the degree in public policy at the Willy Brandt is bringing. It's also this personal development in their students to be to be exposed to this multicultural environment and uh, become respectful and understanding of that you may not be accepting these differences, but you need to be at least respectful to these differences. And there is always a value to find a common ground, because if there is an inclusive, participatory decision, then all those who are involved in the decision making would have ownership in the implementation of that decision. And if it hasn't been inclusive, if it was, if it excluded certain groups, uh, then the implementation may not have their involvement, and that would not serve the purpose.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for your answer. Well, I definitely agree with your statement about how the Willy Brandt School bringing us very multicultural and the students coming from a very diverse backgrounds. Like for example, in my years we are consistent for about like 44, 46 students and coming from more than 20 countries, and the schools is also expecting us to work together as a group. And it's also interesting how the point of view each of us is very different, and how we're trying to reach the same goal, as you say, as what you also aiming in the United Nations. And I think it's also again a great warming up like a experience and prepared us for the professional career in the future. Well, there's actually still a lot of stuffs that we would like to asking uh, to you, but maybe we should also get into the last but very very important questions, which is, do you mind to share us about the tips for being a master of public policy, as a public master of public policy students? Like how can we prepare for ourselves for the challenges and the opportunities in pursuing career in these fields, specifically probably if the listeners also would love to pursuing their career in the United Nations? Do you mind to sharing us some tips, some strategies, or maybe some attributes and skills that we need to excel in order to succeed in this environment? Thank you.
Sure, and I would want to be a little bit more specific here in terms of the tips that I can provide you. Uh, there are, in fact, a lot of avenues available to young graduates to join the United Nations system. The most obvious one is the internship, of course. It's usually for 6 months. In exceptional circumstances, the internship can be extended for another 6 months. And I believe the internship is is an excellent way to gain hands-on experience of how the United Nations works, but also it provides you this opportunity to establish a relationship and network. I know colleagues who started as interns and now they are on staff position in United Nations. So internship is an excellent entry point to get into the United Nations. Uh, there is another program which is called United Nations Volunteer Program. Uh, and it is they have a specific program for young people, which is called United Nations Volunteer, Young United Nations Volunteer. This is a 2-year program. Again, it can be extended for another 2-year period. It has a stipend, so it's not unpaid. And the person who is a United Nations volunteer is considered a staff member of United Nations. So when you are a UNV working in United Nations, you have your own distinct responsibility to deliver on. So there is this sense of ownership as well to what you are tasked with. And then there are several UN organizations, including the UN Secretariat, that have started or instituted a program which is called Young Professionals Program. It's a recruitment initiative for talented, highly qualified young professionals to start a career as an international civil servant in the UN system. This particular program consists of an entrance exam, and it's open for only the participating countries. So you need to go and check the young professional program and see if your country, your home country, is one of the participating countries, and can you apply for that program. And it's also an entry point to get into UN. Then there's also a program called Junior Professional Program. This recruits junior professional officers. And this program is between UN and the bilateral agreements that UN has with its donor countries. And it's generally for those nationals of donor countries that are providing funds for this program, but some donor countries open it to other nationals as well. So you need to look also for this program, Junior Professional Program, and see if you can participate or apply through that program. And then finally, there is a program which UNICEF started, which is called New and Emerging Talent Initiative. This is an initiative for people who are already at a mid-career level and they would like to join United Nations at a mid-career level position. It's also an excellent entry point to get into UN. So there are various programs and opportunities available to get into UN system. But at the heart of these programs and with other positions that you apply, what is very important is the understanding that what the application process is, what are the requirements, and you try do your best to meet those requirements and fulfill that application process. So that's the basic minimum, right? So if the application has to be prepared and submitted through a digital platform, then you have to apply through that digital platform. And there are also some limitations, which is a bit complex in a sense. For instance, if you have done a consultancy, or if you're doing a consultancy with a UN organization, then you cannot apply for a staffing position until unless you have a 6-month gap from the completion of your consultancy to the application date. So these are also other considerations that you need to keep in mind when you are aspiring for a position in United Nations. And then for many positions, in fact, for all the positions, gender representation is asked to be observed by hiring managers. And also there's a lot of emphasis on having staff members recruited from underrepresented countries. So people who come from underrepresented background and apply to UN position in the UN, they stand better chance. And as far as attributes and skills are concerned, there are many, and of course these positions are all competitive, and your qualification and experience need to match. I would only like to highlight one sort of skill or characteristic that you need to have, and that is perseverance. Don't get discouraged. Don't be disappointed if you receive rejections, if you do not receive any response when you submit an application. everyone, and I can tell you, everyone in the United Nations who is on a staff position has gone through. Um, uh, they must have submitted at one stage or another in their professional career when they started submitting applications, and they weren't receiving any response, so they were receiving rejections. But what matters is that they persevere, right? They continue uh, applying, and they continue making sure that they are doing their best to to be one of the strong candidates for that position. So my request to to you guys, to students in the Willy Branch, is to be to be persevere, and um, and try to at least make sure that you are ticking off all the basics when you're submitting an application, and this will help you reach to your goal post.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Atif. I think you provided us in a very short time with a lot of useful information. We've gone through many topics like what's your role in environmental policy advocacy, how important it is to understand the complex coordination of stakeholders in the policymaking arena, how does enforcement and influence work as well. And thank you very much also for the guideline of tips that will be particularly useful. So to our listeners out there, please well, keep updated to more of this content that will be coming. But thank you very much again. Thank you very much for also talking about the cultural competences and the role of uh, define our own belief systems to try to work in an international environment. I think that's one of the biggest challenges, but also one of our biggest assets, being international students in Germany, a skill that we're practicing every day. So thank you. Thank you very much for your context specific advice. And yeah, Ari, please.
So before we closing this session, just quick asking, Doctor, if there is like a students or listeners wants to getting more information and also probably like confirming or asking the questions, would it be possible to contact you, and where can they can reach you?
Absolutely. You guys are always welcome. You can reach out to me through through my email address. You have my email address, um, and I'm more than happy to assist you in any way possible. And I feel um, an obligation on my part, being an alumni, that um, I need to help, assist, support in any way possible. So yes, please do not shy, and do reach out to me if you need any help or assistance.
Okay, so thank you so much. We're gonna put your further contact on our bio on the podcast information. So everyone feel free to reach out to Dr. Atif and make sure that you can get the best out of information because you still have a lot to share. Okay, so yes, so thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and thank you also specifically to Dr. Atif for joining the podcast and sharing your information and experience. I am Ari.
Oh, and I am Maria Jose, and thank you very much to listen for listening to this great episode we had today.